Hello, good morning. Welcome along to today's morning stream. We're going to be talking about Liverpool's 2-0 win over Wolves. I'm Matt Addison. Andrew Beasley is with me. Do get your comments in. We'll try and get the best of those on screen over the next few minutes or so as we go along. But Andrew, 3 wins out of 4. The sort of frustration I think that we all felt after that draw with Crystal Palace at the weekend, maybe slightly eased now. Obviously, it depends a little bit on what happens next weekend as well. If Liverpool beat Manchester United, it suddenly looks like a bit of a roll. But I suppose it just looked a little bit more like Liverpool last night, which is a decent place to start, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I was sort of thinking about it afterwards. I was getting sort of quite frustrated in the first sort of hour or so of the match. Wasn't sure if Liverpool were going to score. And then I thought, but they've often had games like this over the years. I think if that exact game had happened in 2018-19, 2019-20, it just goes down as a routine win and barely gets remembered, a couple of years later. But with the enormous ups and downs Liverpool have had this season, in myself at least, it felt like it was more like, oh, they're not going to win again. It's going to be 0-0, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, it was a sort of routine home win, and they absolutely deserved the 3 points. So, yeah, as you say, Crystal Palace was disappointing. It was a flat performance, but 3 wins and a draw from the last 4. I mean, that's perfectly fine form for contesting, top 4 battle. Obviously need to get a positive result on Sunday as well, as you say. But there's got to be encouragement that having lost so badly to the same team so recently, all right, now it's at home, but Liverpool put in a much better performance and were deserved winners.
Yeah, I think at half-time it was feeling a little bit like it might be a 0-0 game, or if they were to nick one, then they could go on and do it. But it felt to me like Liverpool just got better as the game went on. They didn't necessarily start brilliantly. I thought Wolves were very good the first 10 minutes. But the longer the game went on, the better Liverpool got. As soon as they got that first goal, it kind of felt like they might go on and get the second. And that's kind of what happened. So it does feel like that confidence level is increasing at least, which obviously, like the run that they're on, that should be the case. And hopefully they can build on that a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, as much as they weren't brilliant at Crystal Palace, I mean, Palace didn't have a shot on target in that game. If Liverpool had have scored at any point, chances are they might have won that game as well. And for all the troubles they've had this season, generally when they've scored the first goal, they've usually won. I mean, obviously Real Madrid disproved that emphatically last week, but certainly in the league, I think it's won every game apart from one when they've led this season. And the other game was a draw. So, it sort of reflects in the numbers as well. I did a piece yesterday for the Echo, and when Liverpool have over 2 expected goals, as they did last night, I think it's happened 12 times. They've only conceded 4 goals in those games. When their attack is working, the defence inevitably comes under less pressure as a result. And all right, it's partly because they're not always playing the best teams in those games. But the point is, when they're working well going forward, they're generally keeping clean sheets as well, which is obviously perfect combination. So it sort of became a routine win. As we say, it didn't sort of feel like it was going to at first. But, I mean, Wolves had that one chance that sort of went wide in the first sort of 5 or 10 minutes. But after that, I can't recall any particularly nervy moments. Worst case scenario, I think, was 0-0. But it didn't really look like Liverpool were going to lose the game at any point, I didn't think.
Yeah, it was certainly one that Liverpool tended to control. And I think there was a few players really for us to pick out. I think all the way through the spine, you mentioned the attack. We'll come back to that in just a second. We saw the comment on screen a second ago about Darwin Nunez. We'll come on and talk to him talk about him as well. But let's start at the back. Obviously, Ibrahima Konate was back. Virgil van Dijk looked like he was back to his best. I suppose those two things probably interlinked. That sort of partnership is very, very important, I think, for the weekend. So it's good to see both of them on the pitch.
Yeah, Liverpool have been getting clean sheets quite often in the league recently and been using different combinations of centre-backs. But yeah, you have to say that Konate and Van Dijk is the best pairing, and they looked that last night. I mean, obviously, Wolves are one of the lowest scoring teams in the league. Not that mattered when Liverpool played them at Molineux, but they are. So, again, not perhaps the toughest test that they'll ever get. But clearly, Liverpool would want Konate back to face Man United. So the fact he's had a game to sort of get ready for that, even if it wasn't quite the toughest test, only bodes well for Sunday. Because, we all know that United are going to target, Alexander-Arnold with Marcus Rashford. So clearly Konate is going to have to be on point on Sunday to try and sort of defend against that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sure that will be their plan. But I think with Konate there, you kind of a little bit more confident, at least, of him being able to come out on top of that one. But we'll see what happens. Let's move into the midfield. Then just in front, I thought Fabinho looked a lot better as well. There has been a couple of good performances from him lately, to be fair to him. But he just looked a lot more in control. He seemed to be a lot calmer and sort of more confident within himself. He was playing passes and doing those little turns that he does where he spins away from players, which we haven't necessarily seen a great deal of since last season. But I think for him, Stefan Bajcetic as well, I think that those two are certainly in the midfield that you'd like to see at the weekend. Probably Jordan Henderson might come back in, but it's starting to look a little bit better in that position as well, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd lost quite a bit of patience with Fabinho this season. So there was that moment in the first half where he won the ball back really well, but then didn't really do anything with it in the box. And, I was getting a bit frustrated and stuff like that. But overall, there is no doubt he was better last night. I mean, it was sort of a strange performance in the sense that he could have been sent off. I mean, I don't think he deserved to be, but I mean, he was booked and he did another pretty bad foul. I mean, I was slightly worried he might get a red card. But no, on the whole, he was good. He that moment in the penalty box that I mentioned, he had a few other bits like that where he was sort of winning back possession in decent areas and stuff, and that was great to see. Bajcetic was good. Elliott was good, as you say. I think Henderson will probably come back in for the game against United, but Elliott had a decent game as well. So it looks like Klopp's got some options, at least, which options in good form, which hasn't always been the case this season, as we all know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a problem to say the very least, but it does look like for the last 14 or so games that there could be a little bit of a solution as long as everyone stays fit. And there's certainly a lot of options in the attack as well. Let's talk about that next. We had the comment before about Darwin Nunez. Let's talk about him first. Obviously, a little bit unlucky, I think, with the goal that was ruled out by VAR. But another good performance, another step forward for him. He's still, I think it's fair to say, a little bit raw and a little bit kind of learning on the job, if you like, on that left-hand side. But I think there were some good signs from him. Again, what did you make of his performance?
Yeah, he was good. He sort of seems to be making that left-hand spot his own. I mean, obviously that may change when Luis Diaz finally comes back, of course, but he's been performing well there. I mean, obviously he set up the best chance of the first half for the Elliott header, which I think really he should have scored from. That was set up by Nunez. I think he set up 3 chances, had 3 shots, completed 3 dribbles, these sorts of things. So he's doing all the sorts of things you'd expect to see from him. My coverage of the game went down for the sort of moment where he scored, so I didn't sort of see what happened in real time. I watched it on the highlights today, and they didn't really sort of dwell on it. I mean, it looked to me like it should have been a goal, and I think that's just sort of a bit of a story of how the luck has been for both Nunez and Jota this season in a lot of ways. But I have to be pleased with Nunez. He'll obviously start on Sunday, and again. When you look, sort of mentioned earlier about the games where they have over 2 expected goals, he's played in pretty much all of them, and he hasn't featured in most of their sort of driest attacking performances, like the Palace game, which was the lowest XG of the season. So again, he just seems to make Liverpool better, whether he's directly scoring or assisting. They are better when he plays. That has been proven, which, for a 23-year-old who only joined in the summer and everything else that's gone on this season, I mean, that's pretty remarkable that he's become so important, but that's how the sort of story is playing out this season.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp said something very similar along the lines of him being important. I'm sure he'll be in the team for the weekend. But in terms of the number 9 for the game against Manchester United, I think that'll be an interesting one. Obviously, Cody Gakpo has played a fair bit of football there and done okay there. Certainly another one who's kind of learning and easing his way into it, but he was on the bench yesterday. Diogo Jota, obviously easing his way back from an injury rather than anything else, but I don't know which way I would go with it. I suppose the fact that Cody Gakpo was taken out maybe is a little bit of a rest ahead of the weekend to come back in, but I suppose again it's just good to have the options, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was sort of thinking similar. I think Gakpo probably will come back in. Obviously, if Jota were to start, that would be 3 starts in basically a week after so long out, which feels unlikely. And obviously all right, it didn't work out brilliantly, but when Liverpool played United last time, they had Firmino playing very deep. They may want something similar either from him or Gakpo. Equally, it didn't work all that well. They may not, but I think, I would expect Gakpo probably to come back in because he has been doing well lately, linking up the play, linking up well with Salah as well. So, I think that's probably what will happen on Sunday.
You mentioned Salah there as well, 20 goals for the season for him now. It was an important one for him to continue to rebuild his confidence and get back into his rhythm as well, obviously, with his goal. So what have you made of his season so far? I've seen a fair bit of chat recently. I saw a couple of tweets from, I think it was a TalkSport tweet yesterday that sort of suggested he'd had a particularly poor season or whatever it might be. It's possibly a little bit of a lazy narrative, I might say, considering the way that the rest of his teammates have been playing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose the worst thing about scoring 44 goals in your first season is that, scoring 20 goals suddenly looks like not like it's not that great. But I mean, the consistency is just unreal. I mean, to score 20 goals in 6 seasons, I mean, only Ian Rush has done that in the last 60 years for Liverpool. He actually did it 9 times, but obviously he was here a lot longer. So it's just remarkable. I mean, Mane averaged 20 a season over 6 seasons, but didn't hit that mark each time. So the level of consistency is remarkable, as I say. And the thing is, like, he's Liverpool's top scorer and Liverpool's top assist provider, and yet is still supposedly having a bad season. Now, that's not to say he couldn't have had a better season. He's undoubtedly missed some chances. I haven't checked the figures for a while, but a few weeks ago, he was below his expected goals and stuff like this. So it's not like he's been at his absolute best, but to score that many goals, get that many assists, and not be at your best, I mean, it's not bad going, is it, really? And obviously, he loves playing United, scored hat-trick against them last season, even scored earlier this season, even though Liverpool didn't play very well. Famous goal in 2020, all these sorts of things. So, I mean, nobody would be surprised if he scored the winner on Sunday. And obviously, we're all hoping that he does so.
Yes, absolutely. All eyes on that game on Sunday now. There was a couple of moments where Alisson played the ball long as well, which I thought was a nice bit of practice for what we might have to see at Anfield on Sunday. A couple of times to Nunez, a couple of times to Mohamed Salah as well. So hopefully we can see that again. But we shall see what happens. Of course, we'll have all of the build-up on Liverpool.com and on Blood Red and on the Liverpool Echo as well over the next few days. But for today, I think we will leave it there. Thank you very much to Andrew for joining me, for you at home for watching along too. We'll catch you very soon.